Your pocket used to be a bag on a string. For most of the history of clothes, there were no pockets in them at all. What people carried, they carried in a pouch. The pouch hung from the belt, or it hung from a cord tied around the waist, and it was a separate object that you bought separately and lost separately. In inventories of the 15th century, a purse is listed the way a knife is listed. It is a thing, not a part of a coat. The pocket sewn into a garment arrives in men's clothing in the 17th century, and it arrives because men's clothing had by then acquired something to sew it into. A coat with a lining has a space between two layers of cloth, and a slit in the outer layer opens into that space. Once the slit exists, the bag can be hidden inside the coat rather than hung outside it. Women's clothing went the other way and stayed there for 200 years. A woman's pockets were a pair of flat bags tied on a tape around the waist, worn underneath the skirt. The skirt had slits cut in it so the hand could reach through. They were roomy. They held a great deal. And because they were separate, they were left to daughters in wills. Then, around the 1790s, dresses became narrow and straight, and there was no longer any room under the skirt for a bag full of things. The tie-on pocket had nowhere to go. What replaced it was a small bag carried in the hand, and the word used for it at the time was reticule. That divide never really closed. Men's clothes kept the pocket sewn inside the garment. Women's clothes kept the bag carried outside it. The handbag is not an accessory that was added. It is a pocket that was evicted. The side your buttons are on is a story nobody wrote down. Take any shirt made for a man and any shirt made for a woman. On the man's shirt, the buttons are on the right and the holes are on the left. On the woman's shirt, it is the other way around. This is close to universal in factory clothing, and it has been for about 150 years. There is no document that says why. There are 3 explanations, all of them repeated confidently, and all of them are stories told long after the fact. The first says that wealthy women were dressed by a servant, and the servant stood facing them, so the buttons were put on the side that suited the servant's right hand. It is the most quoted explanation. It has a hole in it. Most women in the 19th century were not dressed by anybody, and factory clothing was made for them too. The second says that a man kept his sword hand free, and a coat that closes left over right lets the right hand reach inside without catching. This explains men's coats. It does not explain why women's clothing had to be the opposite. The third says that a woman held an infant on the left arm, leaving the right hand to open the clothing. It is plausible, and it is also unsupported. What can be said with confidence is narrow. The convention hardened when clothing began to be cut in large quantities to standard patterns, and once a pattern is standard, it does not need a reason to continue. Everything after that is copying. So the answer to a very ordinary question is that nobody knows. The side your buttons are on is one of the oldest habits in your wardrobe, and it is held in place by nothing but repetition.